Hello and welcome to this lecture. In this part of thermodynamics, we are going to discuss more about heat engines and refrigerators. So let's get started. The first thing you have to understand is what is exactly a heat engine and what is the principle behind it. So heat engine is something that converts mechanical energy. It converts heat energy to mechanical energy. So the transformation that is happening is heat energy is getting converted to mechanical energy. So simplest engine is the car engine or the bike engine. What it does is it converts the fuel energy, that is, it burns the fuel and thus produces energy. On this energy, we run the bike. So that is the fuel energy. So fuel energy, that is the heat energy, is getting converted into mechanical energy. Mechanical energy means the bike or the car is going ahead. Now, if I to draw this schematic of the heat engine, then it should be something like this. This is one part. So this is called source. This is the working substance. And of course, this is the sink. Now, what are the source and sink and what is the working substance? Let me define this source. So, source is the concept of source and sink is hypothetical. That means we say that source is a reservoir of infinite heat capacity. It's a reservoir of infinite heat capacity. Now, the job of source is to supply heat. So it supplies heat, and the job of sink is to also is to take in the heat. So source supplies the heat, and sink absorbs the heat. So let's call them Q1 and Q2. Now similar definition can be given to sink also, that it is a reservoir of infinite heat capacity, just that it absorbs the heat, and source can give out any amount of heat. Now whatever amount of heat is given, this is the working substance. So basically, in the case of engine, this is the fuel, petrol or diesel. And what it does is, some work it does, it does some work. So that work we can see in the form of the car running or the bike running ahead. So if I have to write one equation now, it should be given as Q1 is equal to W plus Q2. So we can say that Q1 minus Q2 is the work done. Basically, from this we can make out that the entire Q1 is not converted to effective work, as there is some amount of heat rejected to the sink. Now, this some amount of heat that is rejected to the sink cannot become zero, because there is some kind of wastage or some kind of heat dissipation that is happening. So this cannot be stopped. Now, if I have to find the efficiency of this engine, that means I have to find out how effective this engine is, then it will be given as work done by the heat supply. And we know that work done is given by Q1 minus Q2 by Q1. So we can write as 1 minus Q2 by Q1. Now there is other definition to it also. Let's say this is at temperature T1 and this is at temperature T2. We know that the heat would always flow from temperature T1 to T2. So we can always give this as 1 minus T2 by T1 also. So these are the expressions which are used to give the efficiency of heat engine. Now this is all about the heat engine, the basics about the heat engine. Let us try and understand what is a refrigerator. Now refrigerator is something that is exactly opposite of the heat engine. So it will be the same diagram that I have to show, but this time what happens is the heat is taken and extracted from the cold body. So this is the hot body and this is the cold body. Heat is taken from the cold body and along with some work, this heat is supplied to the hot body. So this is exactly what happens. And when it comes to the refrigerator, we say that the heat is extracted from the cold body and along with some work, it is transferred to the hot body. So this time, we talk about something called as coefficient of performance of this refrigerator. But that is actually given by Q1, that is heat absorbed from the cold reservoir divided by the work done. So work done, of course, is given as this because this time I can write Q2 is equal to Q1 plus W. So work done this time is actually Q2 minus Q1. Now to have some kind of similarity between engine and the refrigerator, what we do is we will take up these expressions as same. So this we will write as Q2, this will write as Q1. So now we have W plus Q2 is equal to Q1. Our work done is Q1 minus Q2. And this is the heat extracted initially. Now coefficient of performance is given by the expression beta. And if you have to find a relation between coefficient of performance and efficiency of the heat engine, then it should be given by, you know that eta is 1 minus Q2 by Q1. Now let's write this. Let's divide the whole thing divided by Q1. So coefficient of performance would become Q2 by Q1 by 1 minus Q2 by Q1. It means that we can write this as 1 minus eta by eta. This is equal to beta. So beta would be given as 1 minus eta by eta. That is the expression used for this. Now let's talk about the perfect refrigerator and perfect engine. So an ideal engine, when we talk about ideal engine, there is no heat loss. So as shown earlier in the first diagram, for an ideal engine, there is no heat loss. So what it means is, entire energy is converted into work. And thus, you can clearly see that if Q2 is 0, then this efficiency would be 1 minus 0 by Q1, which is 1. So when efficiency is 1, so when you talk about efficiency of the heat engine, it becomes 1. Now let's talk about coefficient of performance. So when you talk about refrigerators, we talk about the coefficient of performance. And what is a perfect refrigerator then? A perfect refrigerator means, in this the work done is 0. That means whatever heat is taken from the cold body is exactly transferred to the hot body. So in that case, Q1 and Q2 are same and COP becomes infinite because Q1 is equal to Q2 and both will cancel, thus achieving 0 in the denominator. So basically, beta for a perfect refrigerator is infinite and efficiency of a perfect heat engine is 1. Next, let us see what is second law of thermodynamics. So under second law of thermodynamics, we have to learn two statements. The first statement is given by Kelvin Planck. It's called the Kelvin Planck statement. Now what exactly this Kelvin Planck statement says? It is as shown as per the diagram. So you can clearly see that here there is a cross. Here there is both ticks are there. That means these two processes are valid. This process is not valid. So what a Kelvin-Klein statement says is that total heat supply from here, from the hot reservoir, cannot be entirely converted to work. I repeat the statement. Kelvin-Klein statement says that whatever heat is supplied from this cannot be entirely converted to work. That's what Kelvin-Klein statement says. So when some heat is supplied, and in order to make this process successful, there is some work being done by the engine. Simultaneously, some energy has to be released to the reservoir. So this process should entirely take place, and it happens in two steps. First, some work is done by the engine, and in the second step, the heat is released to the cold reservoir. So this is what happens in actual, and this process is not possible. That's what the Kelvin-Klein statement says. Let's see the second statement as well. So basically, this statement is specifically for the engine, heat engine. The next statement that we're going to see is specifically for the refrigerator. As seen in the diagram, this statement is called the Clausius statement. Now, what does the Clausius statement state? It says that no process is possible which can transfer heat from a cold body to a hot body without doing any external work. So as you can see over here, there is a heat pump. And without doing any work on this heat pump, what it does is it transfers all the heat from the cold reservoir to the hot reservoir. So this is practically not possible, and that's what Clausius statement states. So when we talk about engines and refrigerators, we mainly talk about two types of processes. One is the reversible process, and the other one is irreversible process. Now, what is a reversible process? A reversible process is a process which, when started and brought to a certain point, it can be exactly reversed and brought back to the same point. So, what I mean is, let's say this body has gone through a certain transformation and some heat has been taken out of the system. That is, some heat has been taken out of the system. And exactly the same amount of heat now has been transferred back to the system without any other changes. So we can say that the system is restored. That is, it has come back to its natural position, original position, and hence this process is reversible. However, if let's say something like this, for example, let's say the length and diameter of this rod has been cut. Now it has been made shorter. Of course, this is a mechanical example and cannot be compared, but just to get a physical feel, let me give you this example. Let's say this was the first stage and this was the second stage of the product. So now it is not possible to bring the product from this stage to this stage entirely. So basically, whenever the system cannot be restored to its original state, that process is called irreversible process. And whenever it can be exactly restored to its original state, it's called a reversible process. So now we're going to study something about reversible engine, and that is called Carnot's engine. So let's see what Carnot's engine is. Now, we have to understand the first few things before we actually study Carnot's engine. So Carnot's engine is actually not practical. It's theoretical concept. You can say it is hypothetical, and it is studied because we can use it to compare the actual engines with whatever is perfect. So you can say this is a perfect engine, and in real life, this is not possible. So whatever efficiency is achieved in Carnot's engine, that's ideal efficiency. This can never be achieved with the actual engine. The actual engine in real life will have some lesser efficiency. Second thing is, we got to understand the basic construction of Carnot's engine. What actually that is. So there is this source. Again, it's the same thing. There will be a working substance. And how is this working substance shown? It is given with the help of this piston, piston and cylinder. So inside this, there is this working substance. That is, the fuel is there inside. That is, it is compressed inside. And this is the insulating stand. Insulating stand. Also, here there is sink. So it's the same process that is happening now. That is, the source is giving some heat. Some heat is extracted from here. Work is done on this. Is doing work, and then what is happening is rest of the heat is given out to the sink. So again, we come back to the same expression, that is Q1 is equal to W plus Q2, that we studied in the concept of heat engine. And work done is now given as Q1 minus Q2. So efficiency, we use the same expression, that is 1 minus Q2 by Q1. So when we talk about Carnot's engine, we have to study one PV graph. But this PV graph is shown somewhat like this. This is the way the PV graph is shown, wherein these variables are P1, V1 and T1. These variables are P2, V2 and T1. It's the same temperature that we're talking about. This is P3, V3 and T2. And in this case, we are talking about P4, V4 and T2. So this process is isothermal. This process is adiabatic. This is compression. So let's name it as A, B, C and D. There are in actual 4 processes happening here. AB is isothermal expansion. BC is adiabatic expansion. CD is isothermal compression. And DA is adiabatic compression. So we're going to analyze work done in every process and thus see the net work done later. So let's take the first process for that instant, and we are considering that the temperature is T1 and the volume is taken from V1 to V2. So work done in the process AB is simply going to be RT1 ln V2 by V1. Because it's an isothermal process, the final volume is V2, initial volume is V1 and the temperature is T1. Considering that we are working on 1 mole of the substance. Next, let us see the second stroke, that is BC. So in BC, since it's an adiabatic process, we know that the system would be taken from V2 to V3. Work done is PdV, which would be then given as R T1 minus T2 by gamma minus 1. This is the work done in the second process. Work done in BC. This would be given as work done in CD. So work done in CD, again it's a process wherein compression is taking place, and then the expression now will become RT2 ln V4 by V3. But one thing we have not to forget here, that it's a compression process. So there should be a negative sign attached to this. And finally, work done in the process dA should be R T2 minus T1. R T2 minus T1 divided by gamma minus 1. This also should be a compressive process. That is why there is a negative sign. Now work done in the second process we can write. CD we can write as RT2 ln V3 by V4, because using the properties of log we can replace this V4 and interchange this V3 and V4, and we can replace this negative sign. Similarly, we can write RT1 minus T2 by gamma minus 1. It's the same thing. So net work done now we can write as, so from the current expression, we can come to a conclusion that work done would be work done in 1 plus work done in 2 plus work done in 3 plus work done in 4. Now, as far as the isothermal processes are concerned, we know that internal energy change is 0. So delta W is same as delta Q. So heat supplied in the first process, if we consider as Q1, and heat supplied over here in the second process, W3, if we consider it minus Q2, the heat supplied here, that is the work done, W2 and W4, they would cancel out each other, because as you can see, work done in dA is RT1 minus T2, and work done in BC, both are opposite of each other. So finally, after doing this, we get the expression for efficiency as 1 minus Q2 by Q1, or it can further be proved that it is same as 1 minus T2 by T1. So this is the expression for efficiency of a heat engine. Now one thing you have to note that Q2 can never be equal to Q1. If that is so, only then efficiency would be 100%, which is not possible in this case. The other important point that you have to note over here is the efficiency totally depends on the temperatures of source and sink. It does not depend on the nature of working substance. Nature of working substance or fuel. Let's take some problems based on the concept that we have just studied. So it says that there's one heat engine which extracts 3000 kilocalories from a hot reservoir which is at 627 degrees centigrade. And there is one other cold reservoir which is at 27 degrees centigrade. And Q2 is being supplied to that along with some work being done. We have to find the work done. So in this case, what we do is, we know that the efficiency is given by 1 minus T2 by T1 is equal to 1 minus Q2 by Q1. So 1 minus T2 by T1 in this case is going to be 27, that is 300. And this is going to be 900. So this is 1 minus Q2. So in this case, it is going to be some work done divided by Q1, because Q1 minus Q2 is the work done. So work done divided by Q1, which is 3000 kilocalories. So what we get from here is 2 by 3 is the efficiency of the engine, and then we multiply the work done into 2 by 3 into 3000. So from here we achieve 2000 kilocalories. So 2000 kilocalories of work has been done by the engine. The next problem is something like this. There is an engine, and for certain conditions of sink and source, the efficiency is half initially. But then the sink temperature is reduced by 100 degrees centigrade. And due to this, the efficiency of the engine rises and becomes 2 by 3. So in this case, we will find the source temperature. In both the cases, how much was the source temperature? That's what we will find. So in the first case, we know that 1 minus T2 by T1. This expression can be written as half. This is equation 1. This was the initial condition. And after that, what happened is 1 minus T2 minus 100. So this got reduced by 100 and the T1 remains same and the efficiency becomes 2 by 3. So now we're going to use the first equation data and put it in the second one to achieve the final answer. So this becomes 100 by T1 is equal to 2 by 3. We know that this expression is half. So we're going to write 100 minus T1 is equal to 2 by 3 minus half, which we then achieve as 4 minus 3, that is 1 by 6. So T1 finally is achieved as 600 Kelvin. So temperature of the source initially was 600 Kelvin. That is the answer to this question.